delegation heads present. They are, thank you. In accordance with Rule 71, I shall first allow the provinces the opportunity to make their declaration if they so wish. We start off. Is there any province which wishes to make a declaration? None. I shall then proceed to invite the provinces to vote. Heads of delegations. The Eastern Cape.
Eastern Cape support, Chair.
The Free State.
Thanks, Honorable Chairperson. Free State, Dumela.
Gauteng.
Gauteng agrees, Chairperson.
KwaZulu-Natal.
KwaZulu-Natal supports.
Limpopo.
Limpopo, Dumela, Modula Stool.
Mpumalanga.
Mpumalanga supports.
Northern Cape.
Northern Cape supports.
The Northwest.
We concur.
The Western Cape.
Western Cape support.
Thank you very much. All provinces have voted and all heads are agreed. Therefore, the motion is carried in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. I now come to the second motion on the order paper. In the name of the Chief Whip.
Chairperson of the Council, Kaspedi ba re madume ga fele. Ke tamišitše ka gore yalo. Our draft resolution, Chair, reads as follows: that in terms of Rule 21, subsection 2, and in the interest of enhancing public participation, conducting oversight and providing a platform for consideration of issues affecting provinces as provided for in Section 42, subsection 4, and 72, subsection 1 of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, 1. The Council resolves to, from 14th to 18th November 2016, conduct public hearings, hold meetings, conduct oversight visits, and sit in plenary in the province of the Eastern Cape on 18th November 2016 at 9 o'clock until the conclusion of business of that day. And secondly, Chair, Council notes that the estimated cost of effecting the change in venue and maintaining it for the specified period will be approximately 5 million, Chair. I so move. Thank you.
There is no speakers list. I shall proceed to invite provinces if they have declarations. The Honorable Bond.
Thank you, Chairperson. The Honourable Chairperson, the Western Cape objects to this draft resolution on the account that members were not consulted on the change to travel dates for the Taking Parliament to the People programme. On the initial travel form, it was indicated that members will be going to the Eastern Cape on the 14th of November. We made no objection to this. However, this date was unilaterally changed by the Office of the Chief Whip to the 13th without consulting members. Various members from both the government as well as the opposition have indicated their objections hereto. This House is aware that we serve constituencies at home and that we have an obligation towards them as well. In order to accommodate them, meetings were moved to the 13th as per the original agreement, and these now also have to be cancelled to the detriment of our own constituencies. Although we support the initiative of taking Parliament to the people in the Eastern Cape, we strongly object to the fact that the wording of the resolution does not include the time for travelling. Accordingly, Chairperson, we request your permission in terms of Rule 76C to include the word travel in the subparagraph 1. A draft amendment has been prepared and upon your agreement can be tabled for your convenience. The Western Cape cannot support the draft resolution as it currently appears on the order paper.
The Western Cape objects to the draft resolution. You advise me to look at Rule 76. I want to say that I do note the concerns raised by the Western Cape. We have earlier on addressed some of those concerns. The draft resolution, as I read it, simply says that the program of taking Parliament to the people to the Eastern Cape starts on the 14th and ends on the 18th. The concerns which were raised earlier on in the day by honorable members from all parties have been taken into consideration, but cannot be used to change the dates of the formal program. We have also said that those members who do have concerns will be directed to relevant people for us to have an idea. And therefore, I beg to reject the proposal made by the Western Cape on this amendment and wish to continue. I now want to give any other province which wants to make none. I then take the vote, the Eastern Cape.
The Eastern Cape support, Chair.
Free State.
Free State supports, Honorable Chair.
Gauteng.
Gauteng supports.
KwaZulu-Natal.
KwaZulu-Natal agrees.
Limpopo.
Re dumela modulasetulo gabotse.
Mpumalanga. Northern Cape.
Northern Cape agrees.
Northwest.
We accept, Chair.
Western Cape.
We object, Chair.
Your objection is noted. Honorable members, 9 provinces have voted. 9 provinces have voted. 8 provinces have agreed to the question. 1 province has objected. We note the objection. The motion is carried in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. I want to move us to the 3rd motion on the order paper in the name of the Chief Whip.
Chairperson of Council, from my province of peace, we say Limpopo, Imatsiare. Our 3rd motion reads as follows, Chair. Our draft resolution that the Council, subject to the concurrence of the National Assembly, extends the deadline by which the ad hoc Joint Committee on Ethics and Members' Interest has to report to 31st March 2017. I move accordingly, Chair.
Thank you. There is no speakers list, and I put the question, and the question is that this motion be agreed to. In terms of Rule 71, I shall first allow provinces an opportunity to make a declaration if they so wish. Does any province wish to make a declaration? None. I therefore proceed to ask the provinces to vote, and I shall start with the Eastern Cape.
Eastern Cape agreed, Chair.
Free State.
Free State ya dumela, Chairperson.
Gauteng.
Gauteng agrees, Chair.
KZN.
KwaZulu-Natal siyavumelana.
Limpopo.
Limpopo ya vumela mtshamaxitulu.
Mpumalanga.
Mpumalanga ya vumela mtshamaxitulu.
Northern Cape.
Northern Cape agrees.
Northwest.
We accept, Chair.
Western Cape.
We accept.
Thank you. All 9 provinces have voted in the affirmative. Therefore, the motion has been agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Thank you, honorable members. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome the Deputy President, and we can now proceed with the questions to the Deputy President as they are printed on our question paper. I invite you, Deputy President, to take the first question, which is our question number 13, posed by the Honorable Mushodi.
Honorable Chairpersons, of the National Council of Provinces, honorable members, the global struggle to end AIDS recently received a huge boost with the start this month of what we regard as groundbreaking HIV vaccine trials in South Africa. This vaccine trial is regarded by many as the most scientific study in the world on HIV, but what is significant about it is that it is led by South African scientists in almost all aspects of this research. The research and the trial will enroll 5,400 HIV-negative South Africans who are aged between 18 years and 35 years in 18 sites right across our country under the strictest ethical standards for scientific research over a period of 20 months. Half of the participants will receive 5 doses of the vaccine and half will receive a placebo. The participants will be followed up for 3 years to assess the efficacy of the vaccine. The estimated cost of the trial is around 135 million rand, and this is being done in partnership with private sector players as well as the public sector. The partners in this trial are the South African Medical Research Council, which is a government research council, the US National Institutes of Health, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Sanofi Pasteur, GlaxoSmithKline, and the HIV Trials Network. The first vaccine trial, Madam Chair, using a similar vaccine was completed in Thailand 7 years ago, and it reduced HIV transmission by 39%. In our trial, which is going to get underway, scientists expect the vaccine to be at least 50% effective, but hope that it will be much more than 50%. The leading role that South Africa is playing in vaccine research is the result of ongoing investment in HIV vaccine development over many years. In 1999, a program called the South African AIDS Vaccine Initiative was established through funding from the Departments of Health and Science and Technology. With the support of development partners and the private sector, this initiative has done much to lay the ground for the current trials that we have now embarked upon. Today, all government funding for HIV vaccine research is channeled through the Medical Research Council. These include earmarked funds from Treasury and funds from the Department of Science and Technology. The total investment in AIDS vaccine research around 35 million for 2014 to 2015 and 31 million rand for 2015 to 2016. In addition to support from the private sector, the US National Institutes of Health is contributing more than 1 billion rand towards this type of research. While such a vaccine, Madam Chair, would become the most effective prevention method to reduce new HIV infections, the results of the trial will only start coming through around 2022. Given the current rate of new HIV infections, particularly amongst adolescent girls and young women, South Africa cannot afford to wait for the results of this trial. There is work to be done right now. We need to intensify our prevention efforts and expand our treatment programs, we need to act with a good measure of urgency to change high-risk behavior and encourage condom use, monogamous relationships, pre-exposure prophylaxis, and male medical circumcision. The start of this vaccine trial gives us great hope, but it should never make us complacent. We have no choice but to massively increase our global investment in HIV treatment as well as prevention so that we can end AIDS by 2030, as we have committed. All these great groundbreaking developments, honorable members, are done under the auspices of the South African AIDS Vaccine Initiative. The account I have given is testament to the progress we have made against the benchmarks that we set ourselves as we set up the vaccine initiative. The developments are quite groundbreaking, as I said, and they are exciting in their extent, but we need to remain focused and make sure that we do indeed defeat this pandemic of HIV. And this is but one of those efforts that we have to make in order to defeat this pandemic. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy President. The Honorable Mushudi.
Thanks, Honorable Chairperson, and thanks, Deputy President, for the progressive response. Deputy President, the South African government has established the South African AIDS Vaccine Initiative to coordinate and support the development and testing of HIV vaccine in our country, with the aim of finding an affordable, effective, and locally relevant HIV vaccine. My follow-up question, Honorable Deputy President, is what are the records of achievement to date? Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. As I was saying, this is just getting underway. And as it gets underway, there are quite a number of participants that have to be recruited. Only yesterday, we had recruited the first 2 participants in this. As I was saying, 5,400 will need to participate through 18 sites, and we are hoping that we will hit our number of 5,400 of people who are prepared to participate in this and test this whole process for the entire period. We will only be able to see whether this has become successful after the trial period, but all the participants are going to be monitored. We're going to follow them throughout the entire period. The protocols that have been set are really good, and this trial is going to have a great deal of positive efficacy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy President. The Honorable Koni.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Deputy President Fezile Kuzwayo, who got to be known in South Africa as Kwezi, recently passed away. She had for the past 10 years lived as a foreigner in the country her father fought so hard for. In her memory, what are you planning to do to preach amongst the youth the need for prevention through safe sex, the need to deal with the stigma which prevents people from seeking treatment, to capacitate young women to deal with pressure from old men who feel entitled to have sex with them, as Mr. Zuma felt entitled to Kwezi's body? Thank you.
Deputy President.
Honorable Chairperson, I'm pleased to inform the member that the issues that she's raising about what we are going to do to address all the points that she has raised are matters that the South African National AIDS Council, SANAC, is dealing with on an ongoing basis. And in fact, we are going to have the SANAC plenary session on Friday, a plenary session which will bring together various entities and individuals who are playing a really positive role in highlighting the importance of fighting this pandemic and also the programs that we all need to embark upon. As the honorable member knows, SANAC brings together people from various sectors of South African society, government, business, labor, sports people, traditional leaders, community-based organizations, you name it. And all of them have, through the strategic plan that they adopted 5 years ago, been able to chart a path that addresses all those issues. For instance, addressing issues of stigma. We've got a huge program that addresses issues of stigma, and we are going to be highlighting the issue of stigma more prominently on World AIDS Day on the 1st of December and in Ekurhuleni, when we will bring together some 20,000 people to participate in this very important day, which is commemorated and celebrated throughout the world. And we also have a number of programs that address the issue of safe sex, that address the issue of prevention, and that address various issues of how we should address various constituencies in our country, be it men, be it adolescent girls, be it young women, be it sex workers, be it the LGBTI community. All those have place of focus as we deal with this AIDS pandemic. And we'd like to believe that the various programs that we have embarked upon and the campaigns that we participate in with the assistance of various partners that we have from all over the world, from the UN, from the Global Fund, and a number of other organizations, we are pulling our weight in South Africa. As the member well knows, we carry the biggest burden in this country in relation to having so many of our countrymen and women. Now, in relation to the question that you raised about the specific young woman who passed away, may her soul rest in peace. I mean, she is one of those, indeed, who, like many others, we will always remember. We will always want to remember as a person who was afflicted by this disease. And there will be a number of occasions and proposals on how we commemorate her life as well as the lives of others, and remember that what she was afflicted with is something that we've got to keep talking about so that we ensure that as many South Africans as possible are aware of the HIV pandemic and do not fall prey to it. And that is what she would also have wanted. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy President. The Honorable Hatton.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. It is indeed very encouraging to hear the news about the research into HIV vaccine development. Even more encouraging to hear the coming to the party of the private sector in this. The Deputy President mentioned the amounts expended or budgeted for during 2 financial years, which I think, in view of the cost of research and our South African situation, massive impact of HIV/AIDS on our economy and on our population in general, may perhaps be regarded as a bit conservative. 24 million, and I think it was 35 million. 2 questions based on that. I would like to know whether those funds from government were actually expended during those years, and what is the current situation of our government's contribution for the current financial year into this research project. Thank you.
Deputy President.
Honorable Chairperson, yes, those amounts may appear conservative, but at the same time, if the member listened carefully to me, our research efforts on HIV also benefits from the generous assistance, partnership, and working together with a number of other stakeholders. as I indicated, we work in a multi-dimensional and multi-partnership manner, and we've got a number of partners around the world who support the work that we are doing. And also remembering that our work is not only limited to research on the HIV vaccine, it is multi-dimensional. It cuts across a number of other areas of the work that we need to do. And the good thing is that we've got a partnership going where the US funding organizations are going to be pumping up to R1 billion to assist in the research effort on its own, together with a number of other initiatives that they embark on. So the South African government, yes, does pay this amount in research, but let us remember, much more money is being paid and dispensed by the South African government for treatment. The antiretroviral, which are now being made available to 3.4 million South Africans, require billions of rands. So quite a bit of the budget goes into treatment, some of it goes into research, and then quite a portion of it goes into a whole number of other programs. So this is where South Africa then gets a lot of assistance from a number of partners, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the Global Fund, PEPFAR, which is the US government one, and a number of others. The German government also assists us. So we've got a plethora of programs that are underway, and money is then distributed right across the board. The money that is available for this year escapes my mind right now, but there is money that has been set aside for research. Some of it, as I conclude, comes from the health department, some of it from science and technology. And indeed, other departments also participate in one shape or form or another. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Deputy President. I do not have another follow-up, so we will proceed to the second question, which is question number 14. It is posed by the Honorable Hatton.
Madam Chair and honorable members, since the advent of democracy in our country in 1994, South Africa has been resolute in its efforts to promote the peaceful resolution of conflicts around the world, but more importantly, on our continent. South Africa has been active in peace efforts in several African countries and indeed in other parts of the world. Our approach to the issue of the International Criminal Court is therefore informed by extensive experience of the demands as well as the challenges of actually achieving peace, working for peace, for reconciliation, and for reconstruction. For the South African government, this is not about theory. It is largely about practice that is born out of the experience that we have gathered on the ground, on the job. South Africa is committed to the protection of human rights and the fight against impunity, a commitment that was forged during our years of struggle. We condemn in the strongest terms human rights violations and international crimes wherever they may occur, and call upon those who are responsible to be held accountable. And this is a commitment that we have made, and we will continue with it. But we must also be certain that the prosecution of perpetrators is not pursued at the expense of peace. South Africa played a significant role in the establishment of the International Criminal Court and was one of the first signatories of the Rome Statute. While we remain firmly committed to the objectives of the International Criminal Court, we have publicly and repeatedly expressed concern about the manner in which the ICC functions. Most recently, South Africa used the mechanism of consultation available under Article 97 of the Rome Statute to raise the difficulty it has in reconciling its obligations in terms of the statute and its obligations as a member of the African Union, committed to the resolution of conflict through dialogue and negotiation. Despite these engagements, the principal issue we raised has not been addressed. It has therefore become apparent that to continue to be a state party to the Rome Statute would undermine South Africa's efforts to promote the peaceful resolution of conflict both on the African continent and further afield. The withdrawal from the ICC should therefore be understood as a critique of the manner in which the institution has functioned, rather than a rejection of the underlying values of that institution. For the record, South Africa continues to enjoy beneficial and cordial bilateral relations with its international partners and participates without hindrance in all multilateral processes. South Africa will continue to work for peace, for stability, and the equal protection of human rights. This is a commitment that we make as a government and will continue to hold on to. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, sir. The Honorable Hatton.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. The words peace and reconciliation runs like a golden thread through the response of the Deputy President. However, the list of international crimes listed in the Rome Statute and signed off by South Africa 17 July 1998 includes genocide, crimes against humanity, war crimes, and the crime specifically stated as the crime of aggression. Now, to address this, and we were supportive of that action should be taken on the other side, on the perpetrators of these horrific crimes, does the South African government have a proposal for the establishment of an alternative? Or alternatively, do you perhaps see that the increase of the scope of the mandate of the African Court on Human and People's Rights, which, as we know, Honourable Deputy President, can only make recommendations and not prosecute war criminals? Where do we go to from here?
Deputy President.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Clearly, South Africa has its own domestic laws, and we would like to adhere to those. And we would even say that should they be transgressed, perpetrators should be dealt with in accordance with our own laws. As we are a citizen of Africa, and we are an integral part of the African continent, working under the aegis of the African Union, clearly African institutions are also the type of institutions that we should rely on for the promotion of human rights and utilize whatever vehicle that the African Union will have set up and will agree to now and into the future. Now, being part of the AU means that we are part of a big, broad family of African countries, countries that have committed themselves to 2063 commitments, and embedded in that is the issue of human rights and the structures that will be set up, that are in place and will be set up to promote human rights, are those that we will subscribe to. And if there is an opportunity, a chance to strengthen them, to make them stronger so that we can indeed achieve the ideals that we subscribe to as a nation, then we will support that. Because what we have committed ourselves to is that people who participate in genocide and war crimes and who violate the rights of others, the basic human rights of others, should be brought to book and should be dealt with. That is a commitment that we as South Africans will hold on to and will want to see properly followed up through the various instruments and structures that we as South Africa and indeed as part of Africa we will have and uphold into the future. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Deputy President. The Honourable Mikilaikos.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Honourable Deputy President. You have, in a sense, answered my question in a broader sense, but
I'm glad to hear that.
I would like. I'm also quite glad, Deputy President, but I would like a more direct reply, if possible, to this question, if the answer is yes. The Rome Statute establishes 4 crimes: genocide, crimes against humanity, war crimes, and the crime of aggression. These are crimes that can be investigated by the ICC in situations where states are unable or unwilling to do so themselves. What I would like to know is, does the South African government object to any current ongoing prosecutions against any head of state currently accused of one of those 4 crimes by the Rome Statute? If so, which instances and what are our specific objections? Thank you.
Deputy President.
We obviously have to deal with all these matters in terms of the laws that we have in our country and in terms of the principles that we have embraced ourselves. And clearly, anyone who violates the rights of others and commits horrendous crimes like the ones that you have alluded to should be brought to trial. Now, in saying so, we are saying we've got laws in our own country that deal with this. And indeed, if this were to be done here, we would want, and every South African would want, people who have violated the rights of others to be dealt with. Thank you, Honourable Chair.
Thank you, Deputy President. The Honourable Makue.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. Honourable Deputy President, you've said adequately addressed the part of the human rights and peace element, but the original question had 2 elements to it. And I want to particularly address you on the element related to international relations. Coming from a select committee meeting this morning where we dealt with international relations, we are deeply concerned that the actions that we take as this Parliament should not in any way compromise our country's position internationally. Can you help us to understand the political implications of whether this particular matter would also be given adequate attention? Thank you, Chair.
Honourable Deputy President.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That's a very valid question. The decisions that have been taken by the South African government should at all times seek to advance our international standing, because in doing so we advance the interests of all South Africans. It would be of concern if through a decision that we may well have taken we degrade the standing, the position of South Africa around the world. In taking this decision, which has been communicated also to the Secretary General of the UN, we've taken the trouble to explain to all and sundry the reasons why we have taken the steps that we have taken. And may I say to you, Honourable Member, that a great deal of people have been able to understand the rationale behind the decision they've taken. And in fact have said, yes, we do understand. There have been issues and concerns in terms of the way the International Criminal Court has operated. And when we explained our decision, they said, we do understand. Of course, others have said they would have preferred that we did not pull out. They would have preferred that we could have explained, we could have sat in or stayed in to give further and further explanation. But what we are doing in terms of our international relations and everything that we do at international level, we are reaching out and giving full and detailed explanations to all and sundry why we took the step we did. And we've found that as people understand, they come to a different conclusion that, yes, we understand and we have not tarnished your image as well. So we are in the process of explaining our decision. But South Africa remains a member of good standing internationally in various multilateral organizations. We still have the level of respect and acceptance that we have always had. And this is seen as one of those processes that, as we explain, people do understand. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy President. The Honorable Julius.
Thank you, Chairperson. I burned to ask the Deputy President how we will vote tomorrow in the NA, but let's leave it for tomorrow. It's very important. Deputy President, the government stance towards this has an undertone of gerrymandering, because it took a decision and then came to Parliament, right? But the worst part of it all is, you spoke earlier about whenever a crime is committed, someone must be brought to book. A crime was committed. Someone took al-Bashir out of the country without arresting him after the court said arrest. So a crime was committed. The Supreme Court of Appeal held that it was unlawful. Now, who was held liable for this crime? Or who will be held liable? Are there any plans to let someone account for this unlawful behavior? It remains unlawful. I just want to know, will anyone be brought to book like you earlier stated? Thank you, Chair.
Deputy President, it is a question related to the withdrawal from the ICC and the Rome Statute in general. But it is a departure from the line of questioning from the original question. I am going to leave it, yes it is. I am, however, going to leave it to you, Deputy President, whether or not you wish to interact with that question.
Madam Chairperson, the best I can do in answering that question, and thank you very much for the advice that you're giving. The best I can do is to say the matter is being given attention, even as we speak. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That was the fourth order. Honorable members, I can only take 4 supplementary questions. The first supplementary goes to the person who poses the question. So please, when we start with a question and your hand is not up, I will count up to 4. And that's the extent to which I will go. Deputy President, we are on the third question, question number 15 by the Honorable Ncita.
Madam Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, the Human Resource Development Council, the HRDC, is one of the most remarkable instances of social partnerships and collaboration in the democratic era in our country. It brings together a diversity of expert knowledge and industry insight that assists us in having a coordinated and integrated response to a critical national challenge, which is skills development. The HRDC looks at the country's human development system. It looks at it as a whole and seeks to ensure that it meets the needs of our economy. Through its deliberations, it has helped to influence the allocation of resources as well as effort to where they are most needed. Since its formation, the HRDC has made important progress in identifying some of the key obstacles to the development of skills and the capabilities that our economy needs. Through the work of its 9 technical teams, this Council has developed recommendations to address a number of obstacles. These recommendations are being implemented through the relevant departments of government and other entities. Madam Chair, due to time constraints, I will not be able to deal with all the recommendations, save for just a few. We do have the annual report of the HRDC, which I am sure members have in their possession, and if they don't, I am quite sure that we will be willing to make sure that members do get copies of this annual report. The HRDC task team on foundational learning has focused on the delivery of quality basic education. Central to the success of our schools is the capacity of our teachers. The departments of basic education and higher education and training have therefore developed an integrated strategic planning framework for teacher education and development. Understanding the vital importance of maths and science and recognizing our deficiencies in this area, the HRDC set up a standing committee on maths and science, which started its work in March of 2016. And recognizing the disastrous effect of the apartheid education system on the majority of our people, the Council has paid close attention to worker education as well. The HRDC has adopted a worker education framework that is currently being developed. Building on the work of the task team on strengthening TIVET colleges, the Department of Higher Education and Training is implementing a TIVET college turnaround strategy. And amongst other things, the Council promotes partnerships between these TIVET colleges and the private sector, and has also been partnered with the South African Institute of Chartered Accountants to improve the financial management of these TIVET colleges. And we've also developed a wonderful program which we've dubbed the Adoption Program, where we partner TIVET colleges with a number of companies. To date hereof, a number of these TIVET colleges have been partnered with really outstanding and leading international companies such as General Electric, possibly the leading or maybe the one of the top 5 companies in the world. They have adopted some of our TIVET colleges. Banks such as Standard Bank, Continental Tires, Sasol, and a number of other companies have partnered with our TIVET colleges and adopted them. And some of their key executives in those companies go and deliver lectures at our TIVET colleges. But what is also important is that they then bring in young people into their learnership processes in these companies, making young people ready for work as soon as they finish. We have found this program to work extremely well. There is also a concerted effort to integrate the teaching of entrepreneurship in all stages of the education process. And this we are working on together with the various players in the private sector. As part of the Centers of Entrepreneurship program, there are currently 3 centers in Ekurhuleni, in False Bay, and in the Sibande TIVET colleges. Another major area of attention is the development of a new cohort of academics and scientists with the skills, the experience, and resources to significantly expand research and teaching output of our institutions of higher learning, and to ensure that South Africa grows a diverse, representative, and quality pool of academics and industry. 125 learning posts have been allocated to universities for the 2015-2016 financial year as part of the New Generation Academic Program. Now, to ensure that our country's skills development programs are better aligned to the needs of the economy, the Department of Higher Education is in the process of establishing a skills planning unit. And all this is happening through the work that is being done by this council. So this council quietly beavers away and comes up with a number of very good proposals that are then given to various government departments and indeed the private sector to work on and to implement. Now, this council does a great deal of work, and it's a type of council that should be supported all round. And we hope that members will become more and more aware and au fait with the work that this HRDC council is doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. The Honorable Nita.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Let me thank the Deputy President for the elaborate response to the question. To the extent that you have touched on my follow-up question, because it was going to be around the issue of work stream 2, where you deal with the young people getting to be entrepreneurs. But in your response, you ended up responding to that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Deputy President.
A follow-up question responded to the follow-up question with a great deal of foresight and fortitude. I was able to respond. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Engelbrecht.
Madam Chair, thank you. Honourable Deputy President, thank you very much. These type of councils are critical in terms of the long-term economic growth that this country so desperately needs, and that our young unemployed, the 9 million people, so desperately need. So the critical focus of the artisan and the technician development system was to increase the capacity and the quality and the relevance of the development of the artisans that you spoke about. Can I ask you, Honourable Deputy President, how far are we in terms of this? Has this really been accomplished? And if not, where are we in terms of the stages of this, developing this capacity? And what do we still need to do to really churn out these artisans that are going to make a difference to the country and to themselves? Thank you.
Deputy President.
I'm glad to say that we are making progress. Obviously, the biggest challenge we have is our history, where we come from. Where we come from is a horrible place, where people were not even given the opportunity to acquire those skills. So there isn't a deep base on which we start. We're starting from a very low and shallow base. But even as that is so, we are making traction, we are making progress, and I'm always filled with joy when the HRDC holds its meetings, and we've tended to have our meetings in various centers centers around the country, centers of real work, where we go either to a factory, where we go to a place where manufacturing happens, or whether we go to a place where a skill is taught, so we go to the TIVET themselves. I'm always filled with a great deal of joy when I see young people, boys and girls, or young women and young men, who get into some of these artisan learning professions and go into them with a great deal of enthusiasm. The picture that I always remember is how a 19-year-old girl, her name is Palesa, told me that my great ambition, Deputy President, is to become a diesel mechanic. And I saw her at work, training to be a mechanic. She has finished now. She's a diesel mechanic, working under yellow equipment, taking out huge engines. Now, when I saw that, I was filled with a great deal of joy. And wherever I have gone, I've often seen young people taking up these skills in their dirty overalls, in their dirty clothes. They go under huge machines, they make things. In one place, we saw them making machines, manufacturing machines, whether they were red overalls or blue overalls or green overalls. Those are the real people who do work and less talk. So, Madam Chairperson, the direct answer to the question is, yes, we're making progress. Young people of this country are hungry for knowledge, they're hungry for experience, and it is to this end that we've asked the private sector to open up its doors. Open up your doors so that young people can come and learn the world of work, so that they can come into your factories, into your and learn, become artisans, become experience what you do, and also become entrepreneurs. And if we were to do that, the millions of young people in our country would be able to find space, capacity, knowledge, and full empowerment so that they can go out into the world of work and make this country work and make this country great. That is what young people in this country want to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. The Honorable Ngwenya.
Enkosi Sihlalo, ndiyabulela. Deputy President, the 5-point plan emphasizes the need for expanding access to institutions of higher learning to produce intermediate skills, especially the artisans and professionals, and academics, and stronger partnerships between industry and higher education and training institutions in research and development. With the state flatly refusing to provide free quality education, how do you plan to expand access to these institutions of higher learning? And do you really think that the securitization of campuses and the arrest of students activists is the answer to the current fees must fall protests? Thank you.
Deputy President.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The South African government has made a commitment to the young people of this country that what it does want to do is to support them on their journey to acquire skills, to acquire knowledge, and to acquire education, and to be able to contribute to the growth of our economy so that they themselves can lead a better life. And to this end, the South African government has committed billions and billions of rands to make education accessible. The doors of learning have been opened, but the big commitment that it has made is that it is committed to ensuring that the children of from poor families should have great access to education. They must be able to get into institutions of learning fully supported by the state, fully supported to go and learn. Because we've got budgetary constraints, we have also said that the children of parents who can afford to pay, the children of parents who are well off, should have their families continuing to pay for them. However, the children of those families that cannot afford to pay should be assisted. And that is happening as we speak. And the government, in response to the very, very legitimate calls that have been made by young people, that the government should make more funding available, has responded and is pumping more money into education. And the partnerships that we are forming with the private sector are also going to yield even greater results in this regard. So the South African government wants to make it absolutely clear. We are on the side of our young people as they want to learn, as they want to acquire skills and knowledge in institutions of higher learning, and we are committed to assisting children from poor families. Now, that in itself takes us forward in terms of broadening access. Many more young people in our country are now in institutions of higher learning. And it is this government that opened those doors. And we will continue to open those doors because we are committed to the learning, the acquisition of skills of our young people. Thank you, Madam Chairperson.
Thank you, Deputy President. The Honorable Mpambo Shibukwan.
Mandisibulelele mama uthandi modise kuwe sekela sekela mongameli welizwe laseMzantsi Afrika. Owami umbuzo uqophile ufuna nje impendulo engqalileyo ungagwegwelezi uye ngqo apho itholo lifele khona. Uthi umbuzo wami, Honorable Deputy President, previously you had referred to your turnaround strategy, which we all appreciate as South African citizens. And your turnaround strategy has impacted on the technical and vocational education and training of colleges, affectionately known as TIVET colleges, which were adopted by some colleges through cooperative. That is a good story to tell. In lieu of this, Honorable Deputy President, protection please, Chairperson.
You are protected, ma'am. Honorable Koni.
How many permanent jobs, not temporary, permanent jobs have been created with these corporations from the TIVET graduates? And I want specifications of this. Thank you.
Deputy President.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Now, this question requires some statistics. It requires real numbers, which I was not able to bring with, but I'm quite happy to get those numbers and make them available to the honorable member so that I should not do what she said I could do. More directly, I will say we can make those figures available because in our cooperation with various companies and institutions, we finding that those young people who are brought into learnerships, who are brought into artisan training, who are brought into internships, quite often do get jobs, either in those companies or are better prepared to get jobs in other companies. What I was most impressed with was when I went to a TIVET college in college told me that as soon as these young people leave their college, they already have jobs. She said, there is no young person we release into the world of work without a job. We ensure that we partner them with various companies. As they are still learning, companies are exposed to these young people. And in fact, companies have found the TIVET colleges, particularly the one in Ikuruleni, which is in the manufacturing basin of our country, that it is a very good recruiting sport. They go and ask for the CVs of these young people, and that is where they go for recruitment. So these TIVET colleges play a critical role, not only as forums where young people are trained, but also as placement forums where young people can be placed in jobs, either where in the companies that have been assisting the college itself or in other associated companies. And I repeat what she said, Deputy President, all our graduates do get jobs when they leave this place. And that is a great achievement. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy President. We proceed to question number 16. It is posed by the Honorable Khela.
Honorable Chairperson and honorable members, at the center of the partnerships between government, business, and labor is a shared understanding of what I would call the overriding task of the moment, which is the creation of jobs, particularly jobs for young people. There is an appreciation amongst all social partners with regard to the urgency of the challenge and the critical need, particularly at this time, for collaboration as well as engagement. Through the initiative led by the Minister of Finance, Mr. Pravin Gordhan, and the Business Unity South Africa President, Mr. Jabu Mabuza, government, business, and labor are taking practical steps to increase investment, support small enterprise development, address youth unemployment, and maintain South Africa's investment status in the world. While some are doing all they can to talk our country down, and some of who are within this country, the country's leading CEOs and labor leaders and government leaders are working closely on measures that will strengthen the economy and promote investor confidence in our country. This is a significant, if not unprecedented, development in the history of our country, and this underscores the critical challenges we face as a nation and the determination of everyone who wants to make a meaningful contribution to make it. As part of its efforts to address youth unemployment, the initiative of empowering young people is about developing a program that aims to place 1 million young people in paid internships in the private sector over the next 3 years. I still want to see this to be 1 million people within 2 years. We're still talking, we're still negotiating, we might be able to get there. By giving young people work experience, this program will significantly increase their ability to find employment. There is also agreement on the establishment of a fund that will make equity investments in small enterprises that have growth potential. The private sector has already committed a whopping and an impressive 1.5 billion rand fund. Government appreciates the support it continues to receive from business as well as from labor in its engagement during the national and international investors' processes. It has also received important support from business in establishing what we call Invest South Africa, which is a one-stop shop to streamline and accelerate the investment process in our country. Invest South Africa has an investment pipeline of about 90 billion rand for the 2015-2016 financial year, and 38 billion rand up to the second quarter of this financial year. Now, there are quite a number of announcements that are being made and will continue being made with regard to this pipeline. And it is quite an impressive pipeline that includes iconic companies in our country, companies such as Toyota, companies such as Nestle, companies such as Sumitomo Rubber, Goodyear, Ford, Cipla, and so forth. Invest South Africa also provides support to the Interministerial Committee on Investment that is chaired by the President. Now, maximizing the benefits of these developments for the economy depends on the decisive action to restore confidence in our economy, and we are seeing this happening on an ongoing basis. And this is also being bolstered by the decisions that are being taken by the executive in relation to some of the challenges that we face as a country at an economic level. So, Madam Chairperson, work is underway. Work is being done to make sure that the economic and investment prospects of our country are heightened to a much higher level all the time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sir, the Honorable Khaila.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And thank you, President, or Deputy President. Thank you, Deputy President. Business community have contending views, but those views are about profit maximization with the context of current mode of accumulation. They will therefore seek to influence and determine public policy direction in favor of their divergent yet primary interest. Now, when some, and through their formal association, position themselves in favor of one of the state's institutions as against another, such may threaten stability within state's institution and influence allegiance. Now, what is it that the government is doing to make sure that dynamics within the business community do not get transported into state institutions? That is a question. What is it that the government is doing to make sure that dynamics within the business community do not get transported into the state institution?
Deputy President.
Thank you, Madam Chair. What is it that we are doing to ensure that the dynamics in the business community, dynamics that have tended to lead to differences and so forth, do not get into state institutions? Now, that is a very good question, and it is on the heels of what was announced recently in relation to state-owned enterprises, where Cabinet announced that in reforming our state-owned enterprises, we've adopted a governance process, a good governance model, that there should be a good governance model through which our boards will operate in a particular way, subscribing to certain values, subscribing to certain principles, and that alone is going to make sure that whatever dynamics may be outside of state entities, be they state-owned enterprises and indeed even government departments, should not unduly affect what is happening in those institutions, as those institutions themselves need to adhere to good governance principles. And in crafting these, we receive the assistance of a plethora of people, some experts and some well-versed in the process of good corporate governance and the process of upholding good values of how to run these institutions. And we are certain that as all state institutions adhere to these, they will have the good shock absorbers, as it were, not to be susceptible to due influence from outside. Now, this is part of how we are going to be doing and how we are reforming our state-owned enterprises and how our state-owned enterprises. And that they went and blow in the wind like a candle. They should be solid, they should be committed to high-lying principles accentuated in this corporate governance model that we are setting out. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. The Honorable Esak. Please don't cry.
Thank you for the chairman. Deputy President, it's good to see you in the House.
Thank you.
Honorable Deputy President, as clearly outlined by the Minister of Finance in the recent midterm budget policy statement, that of course that the government needs to implement serious reforms as outlined in the National Development Plan and of course even more in the 9-point plan. You will recall those. So mine is an easy one in that as the leader of government business, Honorable Deputy President, what role will you then play in removing these structural obstacles to economic growth? And how then do you plan to contribute towards creating consensus, national consensus, in obviously building confidence in economic investment and driving this issue of job creation? Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Deputy President.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. My role as Deputy President is to assist the President in the execution of his tasks and also to execute the tasks that the President asks me to execute. Now, the role of leader of government business is not necessarily looking after the business operations of all these institutions or the economy as such, because we've got line ministers who do that. Now, the title is really a misnomer, because the title should be the leader of government affairs in relation to particularly Parliament. That's what it is. It's not necessarily government business. Who looks after government business? It is the various ministries, Minister of Public Enterprises, Minister of Finance, the various line ministers who have state-owned enterprises that operate with them. However, what I've also been asked to do is to head up the interministerial committee that deals with issues that relate to state-owned enterprises. And in that, the fortunate thing is that we act as a collegiate. We are colleagues and we act together, and the interministerial function bears testimony to this, because it is a combination of ministers who deal with the economy, ministers who deal with state-owned enterprises, and together we are able to sit and craft various strategies and indeed policies, policy directions, policies which are finally finalized by the line ministries to move, yes, the economy forward. So in that, I act with a number of other colleagues. We are very serious about moving the economy of our country forward. So my role in all this should be seen as part of the totality of the whole. If you look at the sum of the parts, I become part of that whole sum of the parts. Thank you very much.
Banku.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Thank you, Deputy President, also for recognizing the presence of EFF in Parliament. You have, Deputy President, on a number of occasions expressed your support of President Zuma, despite numerous opportunities for you to disassociate yourself from his destructive presidency. Do you also support his handing over of the business of running the country to the Gupta family? Would you support the establishment of a judicial commission of inquiry into the state capture led by a judge recommended by the Chief Justice? Thank you.
Deputy President, this is a completely new question. I think the honourable member is advised to put that question directly in the next line of questions to the Deputy President on paper. In that regard, I then move on to, I have ruled on this matter, Ndate Esak. Honourable Terra Blanche, you are next.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson, Honourable Deputy President. The state-owned enterprises, I think we will all agree, they are all playing very important roles in this country. And, you know, obviously to ensure that our economy will grow, etc. Deputy President, you also indicated and alluded to a number of steps that the government plans to get them sorted out and get them into a position that they are going to be not, you know, the candles that you referred to, but standing on a sure footing and obviously make a good contribution. My question to you then, sir, is how many have you been able, the government been able to get at that point? And if they are not there yet, what is the sort of time frames that you're looking at? Thank you, Chairperson.
Deputy President.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. The honourable member might well know that we've got some 720 state-owned enterprises. Clearly, not all of them play a critical role in the sort of structure of our economy, but quite a number of them do. Now, many of these state-owned enterprises are operating well. Some have got challenges, and some are not operating well at all. What we tend to do when we look at these state-owned enterprises, we put them on a piece of paper, almost like a graph, the green, the yellow, and the red. And as we analyze them, we look at their performance, and sometimes we put arrows and say this one is moving towards the green, this one is moving towards the red, and this one is moving towards the yellow. And we then come up with strategies of how we can move them away from the red. And being in red means that maybe their balance sheet is severely constrained and challenged. Maybe they have too much debt, They've run out of leeway of either guarantees, and they're making losses. And sometimes when they are in the yellow, they are just sort of a little bit in the water, and they show signs of getting out. And when they are in the green, like some of our state-owned enterprises that are doing very well, we are overjoyed and we are full of smiles. Now, those that are facing challenges are being given close attention. And some of these reform processes that we've adopted are meant to address their own situation and their condition. And we are confident that the measures that the Cabinet decided on are going to assist in shoring them up. They are also going to assist in making sure that they move more and more out of need for further capital, need for further guarantees as we move on. Now, the close attention that we're giving to these state-owned enterprises in itself is a great achievement, because now they are on our radar screens. We are tracking them on an ongoing basis and making sure and want to make sure that they do make the contribution that they should make to the country. And we look at which ones are well positioned to play a developmental role and which ones are well positioned to continue operating in a way that will, in the end, be able to churn out profit and dividends to the nation. So, in answering your question, I would say that there are quite a few of those that we believe are going to come right soon. And there are quite a number that are already on the green side, and those on the red side, we are heading towards the yellow, and we want to head them towards the green. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy President. Honorable members, the next question is posed by the Honorable Labuskaghni. My instructions are that the Honorable Julius will take care of that question. Deputy President, we are on question number 17.
Honorable Chairperson, as the Honorable Member would be aware, the establishment of this high-level panel of eminent South Africans was an initiative of Parliament, not the executive. I will nevertheless share whatever information I have on this matter, and may I immediately add that much of what I know is in the public domain, but I'm able to say that in June last year, after a process of multi-party consultation, both houses of Parliament adopted the strategic plan of Parliament, which highlighted the importance of reviewing the impact of this House's legislation. As a result, in December 2015, the Speakers Forum established an independent high-level panel of 17 eminent South Africans, chaired by former President Kgalema Motlanthe, to assess the implementation of legislation passed since 1994. The panel was mandated to investigate the impact of legislation in relation to the triple challenge of poverty, unemployment, and inequality, the creation and equitable distribution of wealth in our country, land reform, restitution and redistribution and security of tenure, nation building and social cohesion. This assessment will entail the identification of existing legislation passed by Parliament that enables the transformational goals of the developmental state, as well as laws that impede these goals. The initiative should be widely welcomed because it offers an opportunity to reflect for all of us on the extent to which we have collectively, as a body of people who were chosen by the masses of our people to represent them, been able to pursue a transformational agenda over the last 2 decades. It will also enable us to identify achievements and shortcomings. It will inform the approach we take to our legislative program going forward and ultimately contribute to making Parliament a more effective agent of the people of this country. It is expected that the panel, which is led, as I said, by former President Kgalema Motlanthe, will make recommendations and submit its final report to the Speakers Forum in August of 2017, which is next year. Further information about the panel can be obtained, I'm sure, from Parliament, and this is readily available information, which is up our alley. But I think this is an initiative we should all welcome and look forward to its results. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Deputy President. The Honorable Julius.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Deputy President. None of the existing legislation have any implementation procedures or socioeconomic studies. Now, in essence, this means cost analysis and impact assessments cannot be effectively conducted. Our concern is the criteria or standard of evaluation, therefore employed by a high-level panel. What objective standards of evaluation are being used to evaluate the impact of legislation promulgated since 1994, as you said? And how did the panel come to the conclusion that these are the objective standards? Thank you, Madam Chair.
Deputy President.
Now, Madam Chair, the huge disadvantage that I suffer from is that I am not a member of this panel and have not ever been able to sit in any of their deliberations. Now, they are beavering away doing their work, and I have not been privy to any of the things that they are doing. Now, the assessments they are going to make on our legislation is something that one will only become aware of once they come out with their report. But assessing the impact of legislation clearly is something that I believe can be done by various institutions as well. The good thing is that we've brought together a collection of 17 eminent South Africans, some of whom are academics, who I believe will be able to do a really good job in assessing the impact. I hope that is the understanding that I had of the question. Thank you very much.
The Honorable, thank you, Honorable Deputy President, Honorable Koni.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Deputy President, you hinted earlier, I think you were answering the question 16, that you assist the President, which we all know, but I'm going to plead with you to also assist him with numbers. It's a serious concern with reading numbers. It's a very serious concern. If the report of the high-level panel indicates that actually the Constitution, which safeguards white land theft, is a major hindrance towards transformation, would the ANC be open to amending the Constitution to allow for expropriation of land without compensation? If not, then what's the point of the Commission if you will not implement their recommendations? Thank you. You want me to repeat?
Deputy President,
Thank you.
Honorable Koni, this is a question which has nothing to do with legislative review and the competence of the Deputy President. Deputy President, it is up to you to respond to this, but it is a completely different question from what should be forwarded on.
Madam Chairperson, the the best answer I can give to this question is the honorable member is asking me to literally, both literally and figuratively, put the cart before the horse. Now, basically say, if this is what they are going to do, I don't know what this panel is going to do. I think the best thing that the honorable member and myself can do is to wait for the report of this panel. And it is after this panel has issued their report and the honorable member and myself have studied it very carefully, that page by page, that we will be able to make an assessment of what they are saying. And if the honorable member then still persists in finding answers to these questions, I am sure she'll be able to draw deep within her conscience and find answers. And if not, I'm quite happy to meet the honorable member so that we can discuss this matter. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy President. The Honorable Ramulifo. Order. Order, members. Please proceed, Honorable Member.
Thank you, Madam Chair and the Deputy President. Should the recommendations by the high-level... Madam Speaker did indicate.
I'm a special delegate.
I'm Komera from Gauteng. Should the recommendations by the high-level panel come back and they have harsh implications for the ANC-run government, meaning that essentially the ANC has failed South Africa in terms of implementing legislation that should be beneficial to the people. Is your government prepared to accept and implement recommendation of this panel?
Order, members. I want to protect this member on the floor. Order. Please proceed.
Yeah, thanks. I want to understand whether the Deputy President will accept recommendations regardless of the implications to ensure that this panel is not just doing this for formality or compliance, but the impact which they come up as the government will pursue and implement.
Thank you. Honorable Ramulifo, in this House we have a rule that deals with speculation, and the Honorable President, Deputy President, you are at liberty to want to speculate. That is what the Honorable Member is asking you to do.
Honorable Chairperson, one of the things that I am not greatly gifted on is to be a speculator. I tend to want to deal with reality as I confront reality. Now, the honorable member is saying, please, this panel has been set up. Say, this commission has been set up. We want you up front to commit that you are going to accept whatever recommendation that they come up with. Sign up to that. Now, life never works like that. You only deal with reality. Once a recommendation has been made, when you have analyzed it, weighed it up, it is then that whoever you are, you will say, yes, I do accept this recommendation. Sometimes a recommendation may require further elucidation. It may require further introspection and further research. So how do you then say, accept any recommendation, whatever it is, before it is even made? I am not a gambler. I am not a speculator. And I hope the honorable member will accept how I approach life. Thank you very much.
Deputy President, thank you very much. The Honorable Mpambo Sibukwan, you are covered. That was my last hand on question number 17. We move on to question number 18. It was posed by the Honorable Muhai. I have been instructed that the Honorable Muhapi will deal with the question. Deputy President.
Honorable Chairperson and honorable members, according to the National Development Plan, the NDP, the achievement of a capable developmental state is central to the achievement of our vision for 2030. Sector education and training authorities, that is SETAs, play a critical role in developing the skills of the public service and the capabilities of the state. Indeed, SETAs play an important role in identifying the skills needed, or the skill needs rather, of every economic sector in our country. They have been particularly successful at identifying scarce and critical skills needs in the labor market, as well as facilitating practical workplace experience for learners from universities and TIVET colleges. Between 2012 and 2015, nearly 70,000 artisans qualified through workplace training opportunities facilitated by SETAs. In the same period, SETAs found work-based learning opportunities for well over 186,000 learners. They provided bursaries for nearly 60,000 learners across all economic sectors in almost all institutions in our country. They have provided training to over 13,000 adult workers through adult education and training programs. And because SETAs have such a significant impact on the development of our country's human capital, it is important that sufficient attention be given to their design, to their mandate, to their operation, but more importantly, that they should be assisted to succeed in the task that they have at hand. The Minister of Higher Education and Training is responsible for making a determination as to the viability, the number and economic classification of these entities, SETAs. The SETA landscape is currently being reviewed by the Department of Higher Learning and Training. This review will take into account the potential impact of a single public service. In doing so, consideration will need to be given not only to the sheer size of the public service in all spheres of government, but also to the variety of functions, responsibility, skills, and requirements. It must be remembered that SETAs are expected to keep a close link to those enterprises that contribute to their levy income and whose training needs they are supposed and meant to serve. Because no SETA stands on its own, it stands as an entity that relates to a particular sector of our economy. If this constituency base is too large or diverse, there is a great possibility that it will neglect some while seeking to serve others. Against this backdrop, the regulating department has indicated that it does not immediately intend to merge these two SETAs. However, there is every intention to increase cooperation between them. With respect to the National School of Government, formerly known as Palama, it should be remembered that it is a provider of training for the public service and for public servants. The role of the local government SETA and the public service SETA is to quality assure and accredit providers of training. The public service SETA has accredited and is responsible for the monitoring of the National School of Government as a provider of training. In our efforts to promote quality learning and in terms of good practice, the role of a provider of training should be kept quite separate from that of an accrediting and monitoring body. And we believe that this is a healthy way of separation so that there are no conflicts. As government undertakes its review of the SETA landscape, we need to ensure that these institutions continue to fulfill the essential role they play in promoting skills development, economic growth, job creation, and moving our country forward in every respect, particularly around the acquisition of skills. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. President, the Honorable Mohapi.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Deputy President, let me acknowledge with gratitude the comprehensive way of responding to this question. However, I just need an emphasis in terms of the cooperation that you spoke about around local government SETA and public service SETA. Whether this cooperation together with Parliament, do you envisage, Deputy President, that the philosophy, the content, and the method of training will best improve our service delivery and fully attain our aspiration of developmental state? Thank you very much.
Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I can attest to the fact that the objectives are that we should achieve precisely those ideals that the Honourable Member Mohapi is talking about, that we should be able to have well-trained public servants who will want to serve the people of our country, which in the end will improve service delivery, because public servants should know that they join the public service precisely to try and achieve this ideal that we have. Deliver good services to our people and to do it adhering to the principles of putting our people first, but to pay before anyone else, so that they should be deeply imbued with a spirit of service, spirit of serving our people, like some of the leading forebears that our country has had, the Nelson Mandelas of this world, the Oliver Tambos of this world, the Lillian Ngoyis of this world, the Albertina Sisulus of this world. This is precisely what we want our civil servants to be like, to be able to serve our people, and we want them to commit to that, and this training that they will be getting is aimed at precisely achieving those goals. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Deputy President. The Honorable Mpambo Sibukwane.
Thank you, Mama.
You are protected.
Kuwe sekela mphathi mongameli wami.
Wow.
Nabantu baseMzantsi Afrika.
Andiyayithanda ke ngendlela uyibeka ngayo.
Khona ungagwegwelezi ungqale uye apho ithole lifele khona. Njengaqala. Yathembisa. Sekela Mongameli, I want to know, do we have any plans to merge any SETAs in the near future? And if so, which entities would you merge, and what would be the reasons to do that? I thank you.
Deputy President.
As I said earlier, Madam Chairperson, I did say that a review process is underway. The Minister of Education and Higher Education and Training has embarked on a review process, and this is a very good process. It aims to assess these SETAs to see whether they have sufficient efficacy as they operate, and so therefore one is not able to say right now whether any of the SETAs aim to be merged. The Minister is doing a very thorough process. Where it will end up is something that will be born out of the result of the review process that the Minister has embarked upon. Thank you, Madam Chairperson.
Thank you, Deputy President. The Honorable Zwane.
Thank you, Chairperson of Council. His Excellency, the Deputy President. My follow-up question is with regards to the work that is being done by the Department of Higher Education in coming up with a framework, a new framework for the structuring of the SETAs. I want to believe that reconfiguration, when it is completed, is going to assist us with respect to reducing the duplications in the functions of the SETAs, and also assist us in the deployment of resources to the various SETAs. As we've observed in the committee, that there are some of the SETAs that are really struggling with the finances, particularly the public services SETA. So the reconfiguration could probably also address that problem. But alongside that is the issue of the skills development. We know that our country needs a skilled and capable workforce, and the SETAs are playing a critical role insofar as skills development is concerned. How are there mechanisms in place to ensure that whilst you address the issue of the reconfiguration, but you also do not compromise the functions of skills development in keeping with the objectives of the National Development Plan?
Deputy President.
Madam Chairperson, one of the key objectives why the SETAs were set up was to enhance the development of our people's skills. In fact, I could say that that was the central objective. Now, in whatever process we embark on, be it looking at the efficacy of the continued existence of SETAs standing either separately or others to be merged, the one thing that we will not allow to be compromised, to be dumped along the way, and to be sacrificed is their ability to continue with their central task of improving the skills of our people. Now, that is something that we are going to keep a focus on, remembering that they were set up for skills development. We will therefore want to continue capacitating them. We'll continue to want them to remain focused on skills development. So I can assure the member that we will not drop the ball, as it were, when it comes to the issue of skills development. We will want the SETAs, whatever configuration we finally come up with, be it for either the public service or indeed some other SETAs that may well be struggling. And as the member alluded to, the public service one is the one that's struggling. But the report that I just gave now shows that they are playing a key role in helping to the development of skills. Now that is something that we're not going to drop, largely because it is identified in the National Development Plan as a key objective that we should follow in a dogged way to ensure that our country does have skilled people who will make a meaningful contribution to the economy of our country. Thank you, Madam Chairperson.
Thank you, Deputy President. Our last supplementary, the Honorable Ngwenya.
Ndiyabulela kwakhona Sihlalo. In your own words, Deputy President, you just said that the central objective of the SETAs is to enhance the skills of the public servants. But it is unfortunate because we do not see it that way. We feel that the SETAs have been used as a tool to dispense patronage and corruption. Does your government have intentions of ensuring that in the near future you will build sufficient skills and capacity to do away with the use of consultants for critical government functions? Ngos.
Deputy President.
Madam Chairperson, I can testify that what I said in my own words was to give a record of the progress that we have made in relation to the number of people who some of these SETAs have assisted to get skills. And for good form and to enhance the happiness of the honorable member and to ensure that as she leaves this National Council of Provinces this afternoon, she is in a happy mood. I'm able to repeat what I said earlier in citing the number of people who have been able to acquire skills, artisans. The honorable member will remember that we live in a country where people who look like her and myself were not given the opportunity to acquire skills, particularly in the artisan field. And today I've been able to report that some of these SETAs have trained up to 70,000 artisans. Now, honorable member, if that is not an impressive, truly impressive record, I don't know what an impressive record is. But as I did allude to, I can already see that my mere repetition of this number is placing a very broad smile on the member's face. And I thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy President. That, Deputy President, brings an end to the question session to yourself today. And we wish to thank you for availing yourself to take questions in this House. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson.
Order. The Secretary will read the order of the day.
Consideration of report of Select Committee on Finance, 2016 revised fiscal framework.
I have the honor to call to the podium the chairperson of the Select Committee on Finance, the Honorable De Beer.
Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Deputy Minister Jonas, welcome in the NCOP this afternoon. Honorable Chairperson, the Minister of Finance tabled the 2016 MTBBS on the 26th of October 2016 and engaged with the Standing and Select Committees on Finance on the 27th of October 2016. Public hearings were held and several stakeholders appeared before the committees like the PBO, the FFC, COSATU, Equal Education, Rural Health Advocacy Project, and Professor Yanni Rousseau from this, who made a written submission. He wasn't present. On the 4th of October, the National Treasury responded to the inputs and submissions made by the National Treasury. What's the key message of the MTBBS? In a constrained and stressed economic environment, the MTBBS proposed a measured, balanced, and careful attempt at fiscal consolidation. The emphasis is that prudent fiscal management alone is not the solution. Inclusive growth is needed, and that requires domestic and foreign confidence and removal of structural constraints to growth. Government needs to implement reforms outlined in the National Development Plan and the 9-point plan. Parliament must play its role in removing structural blockages to growth and contribute towards creating national consensus on economic growth. Parliament has to adequately engage on growth issues. And I'm coming to this in our recommendations. Our preoccupation, Honourable Chair, is not rating agencies, but putting the country on the right footing. The committees once again note the tight timelines in the Money Bills Act to report on the MTBBS and needs more time and capacity to more effectively engage with the MTBBS and intends to effect the amendments to the Act before the 2017 MTBBS is introduced. Given the extreme challenging economic environment, the committees commend the National Treasury on shaping the MTBBS and the balanced fiscal consolidation path that does not negatively affect service delivery and ensures, very important, social protection. The committees recognize the severity of the economic growth and job creation challenges that confront the country. Since 2011, the economic growth declined from 3.6% to a projected 0.5% in 2016 and projected to increase to 1.3% in 2017 and 2% in 2018. Chair, even the projected 0.5% growth in 2016 may not realize. Prospects for global growth are also dim, according to an IMF report of October. But it is not as if the country is powerless. Through working together across the divides and implementing decisions already taken, including the 9-point plan, effectively and speedily conditions can certainly be improved to lift growth and create jobs. There's a need, Chair, for unity and action, and on the need to act together for a better future, on the commitment to building a coalition for faster growth. What we seek, Chair, and more can be done if we collectively make the right choices, support confidence and investment in our economy, create a predictable and stable policy and political environment, and put the national interest first. Chairperson, honourable members, that is up to us. The rate of unemployment increased from 25% to 26.5% between the first and second quarters of 2016, a loss of 112,000 jobs. If constraints to economic growth are not addressed, the unemployment rate will continue to increase, and the committees are seriously concerned about this. We welcome the appointment of the new SAA board. We are, however, concerned that SAA and other SOEs' exposure to state guarantees remain one of the largest risks to the fiscal consolidation path and the national fiscus, given that a significant part of the SOE debt is foreign denominated and more exposed to external shocks. The committees note that the net debt to GP ratio is now expected to stabilize at 46.2% in 2019 from 44.3% in 2015-16. When provisions and contingent liabilities are added to net debt, the South African balance sheet deteriorates to more than 50% over the medium term. And this is a serious concern which has to be addressed. Also, the impact of a rising current account deficit on debt service costs, partly arising from the exchange rate depreciation. We recognize the work done by the National Treasury in averting a credit ratings downgrade by the international credit rating agencies. We remain concerned about the impact of a possible downgrading on the fiscal consolidation path, particularly the state's ability to service debt. We welcome the post-school education in 2017, 2018 and over the MTF period. The committees will continue to work with the appropriations committees in both houses to consider ways of improving the allocations without prejudicing other key social, economic and developmental programs. We commend to the expenditure ceiling, but want to see far more value for money on services delivered. The committees commit to strengthen their oversight role in this regard. You will see, Honourable Chairperson, Honourable Members, we are pointing fingers to ourselves as committees as well. We understand the need for tax increases in the current circumstances, but are concerned that in an environment of low growth, increasing unemployment and subdued household consumption, any tax increases by the National Treasury need to take full account of possible unintended negative consequences on the consumers and the economy. Honourable Chair, there are 35 recommendations. I'm not going to deal with everyone. The committee recommends the adoption of the revised fiscal framework and the proposed medium-term fiscal framework, that is the outer years. We welcome the chapter on the risk to the fiscal framework report provided in this year's MTBBS and recommend that the National Treasury provide such a report in each MTBBS and reports to the committees regularly on the risks. We recommend that government continues with a measured fiscal consolidation approach that moderately reduces the budget deficit while supportive of economic growth. Very important that the committees recommend that the National Treasury and government as a whole intensify efforts at cooperation between government, parliament, the private sector, trade unions and civil society to improve economic growth and create jobs. The committees will seek to cooperate with